Hi guys, how are we doing? And welcome to my week 2 roundup. Now I'm aware that I've been away for a couple of weeks. I haven't been very well, so now I'm playing catch up, and I am intending on completing the Every Bit Counts challenge and making it so that it is 30 days worth, because to me that's really important. Even though it will run into September for me, it will also coincide with my one job a day challenge for 90 days that I will be doing from the 1st of September as for the lead up towards Christmas. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. So this week we looked at quite a few different things. I've still been trying to use the things that we have in the house, because for me, I can't start my one job a day challenge until this stuff has made room for all of the others. So yeah, we need to get stuff out of the fridges and freezers and onto the shelves in a way that is going to be really useful. Now, towards the end of this week, I made to be honest, I had a plan. I had a complete plan, I had a complete schedule, it was all, and then it kind of went all kind of pear-shaped. So yeah, that kind of went sideways. That was fun. But we've also ended up with some ingredients we weren't expecting. Okay, so we ended up going to my husband's sister's house, and outside of her house at her next door neighbour's is a Victoria plum tree. So we ended up, because they were so ripe, I had to preserve them that night. Some of them were so... I had been hoping to grab some of the more solid ones and actually put them in the dehydrator so we could have had prunes. But yeah, it is what it is. What I've ended up with is 2 years worth of plum sauce. Which is fine, and Tanny is fine with that because it's his favourite. It's his bestest favourite sauce that I make to go with fake away Chinese food. So you know, I'm happy with that. He's happy with that. You know, we use it for a dipping sauce. We use it to marinate meat in. I use it to put into like a chow mein or a stir fry or something like that for him, and he loves it. And considering he's such a picky eater, I'm not complaining about that. And it didn't cost us anything except for a little bit of sugar, which I'm going to have to remake for this year anyway. So I'm not upset about it. I'm really not. Really not. A few herbs and spices, bit of vinegar. It did actually show me that I have got a hole in my pantry. Yeah, so I thought I had a whole heap more vinegar than I do, and apparently I don't. So I'm going to have to put that on the shopping list for next month. If I'd known last week, I would have dealt with it then. But I've already put my orders in for this month, so now I've got to wait another 3 weeks. It is what it is, okay? And we all end up with days like that. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. So, yeah. And also, for the first time this month, I got an order from Di Maria, which is an Italian import shop, because they have the A10 tins, the 2.5 kilo tins of whole tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, all kinds of tomatoes for £4. So I grabbed 4 of those. Unfortunately, they all turned up damaged. Every single one of them turned up damaged. One of them actually looked like it had been kicked across the floor. But the box was in perfect condition. So it made no sense to me. I did email them because the whole thing, they were beautifully wrapped in bubble wrap. Every single tin was wrapped in bubble wrap. There is no need for it to have been as damaged as it was. But it was, and it is what it is. So I've got to do something with those tins, because obviously we can't keep them on the shelves because they are quite seriously damaged. So I used one lot to make a 5 litre pot of red spag bowl sauce, right? So I did that. That will feed Tony and I for yesterday and today. Then he wants me to make lasagnas for the freezer using the rest of it, which is fine. Now, I am slowly trying to break Tony into being able to cope with from scratch cooking. Right? Now, Tony grew up in abject poverty, and when I say poverty, I mean when he was a kid, he was eating spoons of sugar for energy because his mum was too drunk to cook. Okay, so you know, that's pretty much where he's coming from. When I first started making spag bowl for him, he wouldn't eat it unless it came out of a jar. Completely came out of a jar. It had to be 100% came out of a jar. Slowly, over the last 8 years, I've broken that down. Added more tomato to it. Started adding a little bit of mirepoix, so your onions, carrots, celery. Then a little bit of herbage. A little bit of garlic. Now, Tani is allergic to garlic gas, so if it's cooked in a sauce, he's fine, but I can't cook it raw in the pan, right? So I've slowly, over the years, pulled back on the jarred sauces, right? And I will make a bigger batch and bigger batch if that's what it takes to pull back on those things. I've gone from now using 5 jars of sauce for his spag bowl to using 2 in a 5 litre pot. So that to me is a massive win. Hopefully we can pull him back to 1 jar next, and then it'll be no jars. He'll just let me do it the way that I know how. Okay? Because when I did my apprenticeship as a chef, I was working in a place called Tossolini's. I was also working in other Italian restaurants as well. So I kinda... It irks me a little bit to use jarred sauce, I'm not gonna lie. It does irk me somewhat, but we're gonna get there. Now the other... so that's been done during this week, which is fine. So yeah, they'll be turned into lasagnas for the freezer. What's left of it will be turned into lasagnas for the freezer. So, you know, that's going to be a bonus. That's going to be a bonus. But yeah, before anyone has a pop about it, that's why I make my spag bowl that way. Because sometimes when you're trying to help someone to retrain their palate or to retrain their thinking on food, you have to give them something that they recognize and make it yourself, okay, and break that down. And honestly, I have no problem with that. We rarely buy Chinese takeaway anymore because I make my own fried rice, he loves it. I make my own chow mein, he loves it. I make my own noodles, he loves it. I make my own stir fries, he loves those, you know. And I've now got him onto ribs. My favourite. Ribs. I got him onto char siu pork. Another one of my favourites, you know. But I make it myself now. Just so that, you know, he can have the takeaways that he wants and he's happy with them. I finally got him to approve a homemade pizza dough. You know, so this everything counts challenge is really important to me because I get to use up the stuff that we have at home to replace the stuff that we would normally use out of jars and packets. But he's also seeing that it can be made at home, and he's starting to become more comfortable with food. And if he becomes more comfortable with food, then he's healing. And if he's healing, then maybe other things will slowly go by the wayside as well, because that's important as well. But softly catchy monkey, and I hope that you enjoy this roundup of everything that I did this week, and I will see you next week. Ta-da! Bye! It's day 8 of the Every Bit Counts challenge, and today I'm going to be making some Szechuan pepper and chili salt. These are Szechuan peppercorns. They are amazing, but they are mind numbing, and I mean mouth numbing, I mean throat numbing, stomach numbing. They're not hot. They will literally numb your face. Tanny, my partner, of course, is absolutely terrified of these things. He can't even deal with white pepper on a good day. So, you know, naturally I'm making the biggest jar I possibly can. First off, grind your whole spices first. But Blue, your blender's dirty. I just finished blending the dried jalapenos. I decided not to wash the blender until I made this, because I was using those chilies to make this, like this, adding them to the ground up Szechuan peppercorns. If you have dealt with these kinds of dried chilies before, or Szechuan peppercorns, you'll understand why I only wanted to do this one time. Once. That's it. And then it can stay that way until I need to do them again, maybe next year. Or in another year after that. I don't know. I am eyeballing this because I know generally how much I want in this, because I've been making it for a lot of years now. However, if you're going to do this, I would suggest not using a cup measure. I would suggest measuring it. And I use 100 grams of each thing, except for the salt that I put 150 grams. Now, could I just put it in the jar and shake it at this point? Yes. Why am I putting it through the blender again? Well, I'm doing it because I want it to be incredibly fine. This is not the kind of Szechuan peppercorn and chili mix where you would want to turn it into an oil. This is just a seasoning for casseroles or soups, or in particular I used it to make an omelette this morning for me. So having it a bit finer works for me, but you do you, boo. Anyway, find yourself a clean jar. Clean dry jar. Dry, people, don't have water in it. And pop it all in the jar. And that's literally it. That's it. That's all it is. 2 minutes of getting a couple of things, chucking it all together in the blender, and you have a wonderful, wonderful, warm, hot salt mix to put on whatever you want. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye. It's day 9 of the Every Bit Counts challenge, and today I go outside to tackle the sage triffid. Not an exaggeration, this thing is redonkulous. Now I wanted to get some of the path a little bit clear so I could actually get into the garden, but turned out that the bit that I got, which was an armful, and that's actually quite a lot, didn't even clear the path. And I'm not kidding, what I picked half filled my dining table. It is very lush though, not gonna lie. Smells amazing. So our first job is to remove all the not so nice leaves, the brown ones, the slightly yellow ones, the mottled ones, the little burnt ones, whatever. Just get rid. What can you do with these? I mean, other than chuck them in the compost, which is the easy answer, let's be honest. Well, you could put them in the fire pit if you're having a bonfire one night, and, you know, just to keep the insects and mozzies off. That's the easy answer right now, to be fair. That's what you could do if you wanted to. These are probably going to be compost. Now once you've done all that, you want to grab your sage by the ends that you cut them, the stem ends, and we're going to put those as close to each other as possible. And once you've done that, you're going to get yourself some string, and you're going to, a good like arm's length of string, and you're going to tie that tightly around the stem ends of the sage. and then you're going to tie the two loose ends together so you've got a dangling loop. Not a huge one, just a couple of inches, or 4 or 5 centimeters, whatever, but not huge, because at the end of the day that's going to be your hanging loop, and you know where you're going to be hanging it from, so you know how much space it's going to need. But you don't want to be tight when you put it up to hang. Now I happen to have these very handy dandy hooks here, and Herbert, my dragon, is just going to have to share his hook for a minute, or 2 weeks anyway, because that's all these take. 2 weeks to fully dry. Okay, and then you've got enough sage for pretty much all your needs. I mean, you know, dried sage for all of your needs. Yep, 2 weeks, that's it. And this was a great job that you can just do sitting on your bum if that's what you need to do for the day. You know, it's a good one. See you tomorrow. Welcome to day 10 of the Every Bit Counts challenge, and today I'm going to be making sage and onion salt. So as I've explained, my part of the challenge, I am trying to use up what we've got and making it into new stuff so I can rotate stock in my cupboards. The onion powder and the sage have been sitting there for ages. I'm going to use the whole jar of sage because we've just yesterday put more sage up to dry. And when you dry leaf herbs, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to blend them or stick them through the grinder. So I would suggest using a wooden skewer. Do not put your hands in the blender! Don't do it! So after literally 20 minutes of trying to get all of the onion powder out of the jar because it had clumped over just being in the jar for X amount of time, do you know what I mean? It's couple of years old now and it just needs using up as easily as possible. If you don't want to do it this way, that's entirely up to you, but I prefer to use things so I don't have to get more things when I don't need to get more things, if that makes sense. So after all of that and about 20 minutes of trying to get the stuff out of the jar, we finally got it all in the blender, and we've added our salt as well, which is the same amount as there was onion powder. So once that's done and it's all mixed in together, you've got a really nice blend. And frankly, I would use it in all kinds of things. I'm probably going to use it a lot over the holidays, especially when it comes down to times like Christmas. Also 2 jars that have now been condensed into one, and we have a new item on our shelf, and that's a win. See you guys tomorrow. When we were kids, these would make us feel real fancy at Christmas, but they are hugely expensive. What if I told you you could make them using leftover milk and markdown milk at home? So we're going to make our own cheese, and we're going to first off use all the leftover milk that we've had in our fridge, taking up space. Some of it is already starting to split. That's okay, because that's called clubbering, and it means that it makes our job a little bit easier later on. So it's already started to split just due to the heat in the pan, and you keep an eye on that heat by checking your cheese thermometer or your dairy thermometer, and we want the temperature to get up into the green zone, just like this. And once it's there, you can turn the heat off. At this point as well, you're also going to add a tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice, whatever you have available, but some kind of acid, so that it will help with the splitting process, so that you get as many curds as possible. Once it's sat for a good 10 minutes, we're going to put a colander in a bowl with a tea towel, clean tea towel in it, and we're going to scoop out our curds into that, and we're going to leave it to sit until we're ready to do the next bit. So it's been a couple of days and the cheese is ready to go in the blender, and we're going to mix it with some cream. Just a little bit of cream. Now I'm using plant-based cream here because that's what I've got. It's fine. It's not a big deal, but use what you've got. Might take a little bit of poking and a little bit of prodding, but you'll get there, and once it's a nice thick consistency, you've got it. It's ready to go. Now use whatever molds you've got. I've got these little ones, and I'm just going to fill those up. They're a bit bigger than the shop bought ones, which I have no problem with, to be fair. So just fill them up, and then we're going to put them in the freezer overnight. And once they've been in the freezer overnight, we're going to pop them into silicone bags or a takeaway container with parchment paper between each layer, completely up to you. And when you're ready to use them, bring them out and top them with tiny bits of diced up mushroom or chives or peppers or capsicum or whatever you want to put on it. Make it yours, and you've done it with waste milk and a few minutes of your time. Can't get better with that. We had a bit of a surprise yesterday of a gift of 10 kilos of Victoria plums. So I turned them into plum sauce. And this morning, well, I did that last night because some of them were a little bit soft. And I left it till this morning to blitz it up, jar it up, as you can see here, in my little jars, so that I can water bath it, get it on the shelf. It makes a lot. And the ingredients are at the end of this so that you can take a screenshot of it so that you've got the ingredients. I got 20 jars. 20 jars. Okay. I made loads. This is going to be enough for us probably for the next 2 years. But I can't see Tani complaining. So, yeah. We get them all into the water bath. Nice and cozy. And I prefer to go from cold if I can. And because I just feel safer in myself that way. Because I tend to drop things. So I find it easier and safer for me to go from cold. So if you're going from hot, you only need to do 15 minutes water bath. So once it comes to the boil, you only do 15 minutes after that. If you're going from cold, I do 2 hours, and it just is what it is. It does split a little bit. I'm not worried about that because if you shake it, it all emulsifies back. But you just want to make sure that you're putting cold water in as well. And Tani helped me with this last little bit because this was 3 o'clock in the morning. Can I just say I was doing this at 3 o'clock this morning? Not gonna lie, it is a lot of work. But that's the second load going in. And yes, the water's blue. Why is the water blue? Because it's come off the towel. It's new. But I'm not worried. And by the end of today, we're going to have loads. So it's all good. Two days ago, I bought 20 ears of corn. And today, when I've bringing them out to process, because it's 4 o'clock in the morning, it's bin day, I want to get all of the rubbish out. I find that a lot of the outsides are moldy, which means that I can't use the husks. Normally I save and dry the husks so I can use them for dumplings and I can use them for tamales and stuff. The corn silks are pretty okay. Most of the ears are okay. I did end up throwing away 5 of them because they were moldy, and as anyone who knows much about corn knows, corn mold is not safe at all in any way, shape or form. It is not a good thing, and yeah, they've made horror movies around it. Now I hand shuck my ears of corn as I was shown by a Thai woman that I used to work with, and I can shuck a decent sized ear in about 3 to 4 minutes, so I don't see the point using the tools that you can have, because you tend to lose half of the kernel, and I want as much as we can keep. So about 1.5 cups or of the cup that I am using is going into these 500ml jars. I kind of decided in the end that I would add a small jar and take some of the corn out and put it in a smaller jar. And the reason being that a lot of it had started to dehydrate, And as it water baths and sits in the water, it's going to take up that liquid, and which means it needs room for expansion. So I decided that I would just make another jar so that it had that ability to do that. Now also in these jars I add a teaspoon of sugar and a teaspoon of salt, and just whack the lids in, and they are ready for a 2-hour water bath. And that's literally it. So they're now going to be queued up with everything else. I got 10 pints and 1/2 pint jar, and yeah, they're just gonna wait in line with everything else today because I have a lot of things to do and I am catching up. Oh, and as bonus, I keep the silks. Why do I keep the silks? Because I put them in my medicine cabinet. Why? Because they are really good for making tea to help you if you have UTIs. We're always racing, trying to get dinner done so fast that, you know, we're not enjoying the process. We're trying to get food into people and it doesn't leave us much time because we don't want to be there all day and we just want to get the food on the table so people will stop whining at us. I'm no different to anybody else, and there are days when I would quite happily chuck a spag bowl together in 20 minutes with cooking sauce and that be that. But today I wanted to enjoy the process because I haven't done it for a very long time, not properly. So I diced the carrots, the onions, the celery, sliced the mushrooms, placed them in some olive oil and slowly sauteed them. Not high, slow. 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Way through, I added garlic powder, mixed herbs, some dried basil, and just flavourings in general that would work with this, you know, and mixed it all together. Then I added the meat once that was sauteed down, because if I cook off and saute the veg first, the meat takes on those flavours instead of having just a boring naff flavoured meat that is full of flavour because it's soaking up all the juices from the veg and the herbs and the flavours that have already gone in the pot. And once I did that, I added a big tin of tomatoes. That's 2.5 kilos of tomatoes. Whole peeled plum tomatoes. Not the chopped ones, which are naff at best. Yes, I could have added passata, but I don't have any. I could have turned this into passata, but I couldn't be bothered. I'd rather chop up the tomatoes and have a little bit of texture from those tomatoes, so you know that there's actual tomatoes in the sauce. And see, now that will have to take its time to cook, and it will have to take several hours, probably until dinner time, to cook. And it's only midday, but we haven't finished yet, and we need to add a good spoon of sugar to this because they're tinned tomatoes and they have that little bit of metallic to them. The sugar helps dissipate that. But Blue, what are you doing? Oh my god, you put all that work in, now you put it in the cooking sauce. Yes I am. And you know why? Because Tanny recognises the flavour of it. My hubby grew up in extreme poverty, and I mean extreme poverty, and he's not used to home cooked meals. And although we've been together for 8 years and he's slowly being able to try new things, and he will try new things the more he trusts me to cook, but I still have to make it taste in a way that he recognises. And I don't mind doing that because it means that he will eat something new, and next time I'll only have to put it in one jar, and maybe the time after that, no jars. Food is like anything. the more time you put into it, the closer and the better relationship you have with it. So take your time. Enjoy the journey.